Okay, hi, Masila. Thank you so much for coming to the events, and we welcome you, and I will let you host the event now.
Okay, I'll share my presentation. I don't see my presentation. Let me start over. I don't see my presentation. I don't know why. Do you have my presentation to share?
Oh, no, it's coming. Just take us a bit of time. Give it a while.
Because I see it black. You see it black too?
Are you able to select the share buttons and then select share screen?
Yeah. I tested it and it was showing fine, but now I don't know why it's showing a black screen. I have a keynote presentation.
Hi, it's Alex here. Marcella, do you want to try emailing that to one of us?
I sent it.
Yep. Who did you send it to? Was it sent to Eve?
Okay. Let me.
Eve, do you have a copy of the presentation?
I doesn't have it at all.
Do you have Keynote?
Yeah, I have Keynote.
Okay.
So, are you able to email to me?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
So, Eve, has it been sent to you? Because you could possibly just present the presentation if you've got a copy of it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for her email.
Where do I send it?
I already messaged you the email. Are you able to see the message at your side button?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Sorry about this.
No, don't worry, no stress.
Okay, I just send it to you. It's gonna take a while to download probably, so I guess I can just start. Let me know if you receive it, please.
Marcella, I've also sent you my email. Feel free to send it to me as well, just as a backup, in case we have any issues. But don't stress. This happens with virtual presentations. It's very common.
Okay, I received the email now.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
I tested before and it was working fine. I don't know why
it's always
now it's not working.
I'll head off screen, Eve, and just give me a shout out if you need any backup.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yep, give me a while. I'm trying to download. You still need a few seconds.
Yeah.
Because the file is quite huge.
Yeah, I guess maybe I can just start. In the meantime that you are downloading the presentation, I want to thank you everyone thank you, Eve, and thank everyone for joining. I'm really excited to be here today. Sorry about the inconvenience. I'm really happy to talk about the work I've been doing in the past years. My talk is about responsible 3D printing and reusing 3D printing waste using critical making as a research strategy. I'm Marcela Godoy. I'm an assistant arts professor of the Interactive Media Arts department at New York University, Shanghai. I was born and I went to school in Valparaiso, where I graduated as an architect. So can you show the second screen? Maybe you can play the...
Okay. So
play
just
the... Yeah.
yeah.
So the second screen? Yeah. So I graduated as an architect in 2007, and after working as an instructor in 2010, I moved to New York, where I got my master's degree in interactive telecommunication at NYU. After I graduated, I worked for 3 years as a hardware developer at an art studio. And I finally moved to China in 2015, and I started working at NYU Shanghai. Today, I would like to talk about 3D printing from the point of view of a female researcher who uses 3D printing technology, but stays critical about the problems that these and other technologies could bring into our society. Okay. So I'll let you know when to change, but can you go to the previous one? Yeah,
Okay.
my first 3D printed, the next one. My first 3D printed project was in 2012 when I was in grad school. Can you go to the next slide? And this project was a data visualization in form of 3D printed jewelry. We used the United Nations Women database, which shows the percentage of women who have suffered sexual abuse from their partners across the globe. The jewelry resembles self-defense weapon to empower women and raise awareness about this problem that many of them suffer every day. At this time, I didn't have the chance to use a 3D printer by myself. So when I needed to 3D print, I sent it to a service. This means that I didn't have room for prototyping because it was expensive and I needed to get it done at the first time. Therefore, I didn't finish this project until several years later, when I was able to prototype and test different materials and ways to fabricate this. This was a process full of trials and errors, but helped me to learn much more about this technology. Can you go to the next one? Before coming to China, I worked in an art studio called Yes, Yes, No. And in this studio, I worked in several interactive commercial and arts projects. This one is called Connecting Lights, that was part of the Olympic Games in 2012. The project explored ideas of borders and connections through a landscape art installation, as you can see there in the video. The installation consisted of 400 weather balloons of around 2 meters diameter, equipped with LEDs driven by radio devices, illuminating all the Roman monument in Britain, the Hadrian's Wall. This was actually my first time 3D printing by myself with access to 3D printers. So I was able to design pieces, test them, and also improve them. But what caught my attention, can you go to the next slide? What caught my attention was the fact that the exhibition lasted for only 3 days. And then we packed and left everything in a storage facility. And more than 400 customized electronic boards with hundreds of 3D printed pieces became waste in a matter of days. When I was a graduate student, I noticed this problem, but after this, I realized that we are generating a huge amount of waste, especially when we work in technology. And I found that each year, about 50 million tons of electronic waste is generated in the world. And a lot of these materials are considered garbage, but in fact, they are not. Can you go to the next one? and trying to find, that one. Trying to find, can you play? Trying to find a new use for the discarded electronics. Can you play the presentation, please? It's showing, oh, not sure what happened. And trying to find a new use for discarded electronics, I started this project, rescuing and transforming cables into an object that can be used in our daily life with a whole new meaning. And later, I was an artist in residence at the LES Ecology Center in Brooklyn, and I created a collection of these necklaces. And these necklaces are more than products, they are an statement, because trash now is a piece of jewelry. And I understand that there is a problem, and my way to do something about it is going against the economic system, creating an idea instead of a product that you sell. And this is an open source idea which democratizes the making through free workshops and free tutorials to teach people how to make their own products, and also encourage them to upcycle their own electronic waste and empower them to do something about this problem. Can you go to the next one, please? After I moved to China, I couldn't find so much electronic waste around to continue with this project, but instead I found myself surrounded by plastic waste. And when I realized about this, I learned that in the last years, plastic pollution has become one of the most pressing environmental issues, and it's harming animals and even human health. So if you are working with 3D printers, you might be aware of the trash we are producing. Every time that the 3D printer fails, run out of filament, we remove support, or we move on with a new improved design. And I realized about this problem in the school where I'm working. And again, I wanted to do something about it. So my question was, how can we teach our students a technology, but at the same time be responsible with the environment? And specifically, how we could achieve responsible 3D printing practices in education. And I started trying to answer this by understanding a little bit more about the problem. Can you go to the next? As you might know, nowadays it is possible to 3D print with a lot of material, plastic, metal, ceramic, but the most popular for 3D printing is still plastic. And today I'm gonna focus on this. There are two main categories for plastic, thermosets and thermoplastic. Thermosets can melt and take a shape only once. After they solidify, they stay like that forever. And thermoplastic are the plastic that can be recycled. They can be melted and molded multiple times. So thankfully, this is what we are using for 3D printing. And also 90% of the global production is this type of plastic. Can you go to the next one? When I was trying to figure out how to reuse the plastic waste we were producing with our 3D printers, I found precious plastic. So this is a project that started in 2012, and it's a global community of hundreds of people around the world working towards a solution to plastic pollution. And this is a project that also shares online knowledge, tools, and techniques for free. Everyone can go to the website and download the information on how to build machines to recycle plastics, such as a shredder, extrusion, injection, and compression machine. So after seeing this, I decided to start my own recycling lab. Can you go to the next one? I realized that working as a professor, I had the opportunity to reach out to more people and raise awareness about this waste problem. And I think schools are the perfect places to spread the word about social issues and teach people how they can make a difference. I joined forces with a professor from the visual arts department, and we were awarded with a green grant to start a lab that is called Remaker Space. as this is a sustainable fabrication lab to reduce the environmental impact of 3D printing and other waste we are producing. This space is a space where we recycle and also we investigate new and more sustainable alternatives to plastic. And in this lab, I also teach a class that is called Remade in China. Can you go to the next one? In this class, students work with local communities, investigate how they manage their waste, and explore innovative ways to transform discarded materials or products around us into something new and precious in areas such as art, industrial design, architecture, fashion, and others. In this class, students also develop a critical understanding of sustainability, and they learn how traditional techniques and new technologies, together with a sustainable design philosophy, can be used as powerful tools for addressing social and environmental problems. And next one. And one of the most important aspects of my work and also this lab, can you go to the next slide? Is one of the most important aspects is collaboration. I think my mission as an educator is to provide a foundation for students' development of environmental values to become responsible artists and designers of the future. And when you think about climate change and environmental problems caused by the trash we are producing, it's hard to find a solution we can carry on our own. And because individually we can't change the world, but small steps can be multiplied. So to find real solution to these problems, we all need to go through fundamental shift in our economies and also our habits as a society. Can you go to the next slide? Recycling plastic in this small setting, in there you can see the lab and the machines. This could involve shredding the plastic, heating it, pressing, extruding, or injecting the plastic. So what is the plastic or the 3D printing filament that we can reuse? There are several types of plastic types, and they are categorized by numbers. I don't know if you know. I've been experimenting with plastics such as number 1, that is PET or PET, number 2, number 4, number 5, number 6. And the plastic that we are using for 3D printing in our lab is ABS and PLA that are pretty common for 3D printing. These are placed in the category number 7 as other plastic. When we mix 2 types of plastic, recycling becomes almost impossible because the properties of the plastic are different, and therefore the melting temperature will be also different. So plastic that are categorized in this number 7 category will be a mixture of many plastic that won't be recycled. And in our school, we decided to print mostly with PLA, but even though PLA is advertised as a biodegradable alternative, it will only decompose when having pretty specific and controlled composting conditions. If it ends up in the landfill, it will take the same as any other plastic to decompose, like 500 years or something. Can you go to the next slide? Now I'll show you some experiments we have been doing in the lab. This is a stool that we made with ABS plastic. The design doesn't use any other material than plastic, and it's an improved design after a couple of iterations where we use plastic only for the top and wood for the legs, and we screw the parts together to join them. For the top part, we heat up the plastic using a kitchen pan, and then we press it, and that's why you can see the shape of that is round. Finally, we got a rosin machine. That is a machine that can have 2 plates, top and bottom, that can hit the plastic and also press. And with this machine, we were able to make panels that later we can cut with a CNC. And it's pretty similar to cut plywood. The plastic is heated up at 220 Celsius degree for a period of time of 1 hour, more or less. Can you go to the next? This is another experiment using silicone molds that can be heated with the plastic and reused several times. Usually people mold plastic with metal molds, but this is pretty expensive and it's more useful if you are mass producing objects. We have been making silicone molds out of 3D printed parts in another class. So we wanted to test them with recycled plastic. And in this experiment, we heated PLA plastic for about 30 to 40 minutes at 200 Celsius degrees. And then we took it from the oven and we pressed it until it cooled down. Next slide. Another experiment was this cup holder that we made because the school bought these metal cups to replace single-use cups at the cafe. And we proposed this cup holder since the metal cups get really hot. Next slide. We want to use the waste from the 3D printers, not only to create materials, but we are also interested in making connections with communities around us, share knowledge, learn from each other. And this is a project from my class we made in China. And for this project, students created their own material with PLA plastic, and they used fabrication techniques to design a frame that they hung on the wall. And the frames are showing images to raise awareness of the work of the cleaning staff, that the work that they do when people are not sorting properly the trash on campus. And next slide. And in this other project, also from the same class, students worked with the community next to our school. They designed this garbage ton to help the volunteers who are cleaning the common spaces of the compound. And to do that, they created their own material with ABS plastic. And throughout the semester, they met multiple times with the volunteers for testing the design. And they produced a bunch of experiments to master the making of this material and to improve the design. And in this class, students are also posting online their research so other people can experiment too. And in the next slide. If you see in nature, plants and animals have evolved to make materials with a particular set of ingredients that other organisms can source, use, break down, and also use again. But we are not there yet with 3D printing materials, since plastic is the most common material used for 3D printing, and it's really difficult to decompose. So you might be wondering, like, should we stop 3D printing with plastic then? And I think technologies like 3D printing have opened us a lot of possibilities. There is so much we can learn and teach by prototyping with 3D printers. And actually, we saw it in the previous talk. And as a professor teaching these fabrication techniques, I think it's important to also teach about materials and the consequences of building or making things. I want my students to be conscious about their decisions when making things. So I want to teach them how to make responsible choices, think critically, and also experiment with what they have available. Can you go to the next slide? And I want to finish with this quote from the video artist Barbara Sky Ditze. A woman naturally gathered together, develop, nurture, and sustain. It is in intrinsic nature of women to be creators and communicators. I think in a male-dominated field of technology, my mission as an artist and maker using fabrication technologies like 3D printing involve two main things. Of course, the first one is support other female artists and designers. And the second one will be use the technologies to take action on cultural and social concerns by proposing and sharing experimental approaches and new possibilities for political and social engagement. So yeah, and the next, that will be all. I don't know if you have questions or something. Thank you so much.
Masila, and there are two questions. So the first question is that have you tried to make filaments for the 3D printers?
Yeah, I've tried, but it's pretty difficult to make the filament because to create really good filament, you need to have kind of like perfect conditions. And in this setting, we cannot achieve those conditions. Like you need to be cooling down the filament. And maybe you saw in the video, they were making filament. I'm not sure about the quality of that filament. So in the end, like I opted to use the material to create other type of material and to use it like plywood or another material molded or something. But I thought it didn't worth it to try to make a filament that maybe is not going to be good quality and we will be producing more waste in the end.
Okay. Then second question, what are the next step for the lab?
The next step for the lab are like we have been experimenting with alternatives to plastic. So we are trying to work with bioplastics, biomaterials, and we would like to work with 3D printing biomaterials.
Okay, great. That's very nice of you. And a very great job. And there is a third question, is digital technology more sustainable than 3D printing?
That is what people say, but I don't agree with that because, for example, in the late time, we have seen a lot of digital technologies like NFTs, or even we use a lot like the cloud service, but I think this is not more sustainable than making things. It's just like a problem that you don't see because in some place you will have computers that are 24/7 working and using energy. And actually, like NFTs, for example, they use a lot of energy to work. And that is also adding to the problem, environmental problem. But the thing is, like, we don't see that. So we think that that is more sustainable because we are not seeing well the problem that we have. But when you make something, you have it and you can touch it, and the problem is there, and you see the trash around you. But yeah, I don't think it's more sustainable.
Okay, great. Hope Masila have answered all the questions that are being asked. And if you have any more questions, do send us questions and we will try to answer every single one of them. Thank you so much, Masila. We shall
Thank you so much
welcome
to you for showing my presentation.